and welcome. Put your xenomorph out for the night, tuck your tribbles into bed, and join us for the Good Game Sci-Fi special. I'm Hex.
And I'm NichBoy, filling in for Barjo while he completes an away mission for ABC3 down in Melbourne. In fact, I will be here for a few weeks.
Yeah, thanks for joining the crew, NichBoy.
Well, thank you for having me, particularly since we've got two massive games to review this week, starting with the cybernetic dystopian future of Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
This isn't a social call, Rucker. I'm here to take you in.
Our mandate is to fight for the rights of the augmented.
And then we finally trek towards the center of the galaxy in No Man's Sky. Mankind Divided, No Man's Sky, a lot of man in this week's episode.
Yes, wait until you see the penis giraffe. But before that, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, we're going to look at some of the best and worst Trek games the planet Earth has ever seen.
We'll have to take that risk. Make it so.
But before we get started, one question, Hex. Why do we look like crew members on the USS Nostromo?
Well, it's also the 30th anniversary of the film Aliens this year, and an excuse to wear a bullet vest, I say.
The future! According to 1986 fashion. But before all of that, can you name the game for this week?
Well, it's been exactly 5 years to the day since Eidos Montreal released the impressive first-person role-playing game Deus Ex Human Revolution. A game that managed to both reboot a beloved franchise and stay wonderfully true to the original in all the right ways.
And now we're staring down the barrel of a sequel to that game, which makes it a sequel to a reboot, to a failed sequel, to a classic. Have you got that? Because this is Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
Not gonna go all wonky on us now, Hansa, are ya?
Well, if I do, McCready, I guarantee you'll never see it coming.
Agent Jensen!
It's been 2 years since the major events of the Human Revolution, which, spoilers, involved an Illuminati plot that sent all the biomechanically augmented folk into a bloodthirsty rampage, causing a huge schism in society, with augmented people becoming a reviled and segregated underclass.
You reprise your role as Adam Jensen, aka Neo from The Matrix. He's the gruff, highly augmented super agent who once again finds himself tangled up in a web of conspiracies.
Now, we're not going to talk too much about the plot to avoid spoiling anything, but mostly the story focuses on your investigation into recent terror attacks. But of course, not everything is as it seems. Or is it?
I mean, I've found it all a bit convoluted personally. There are quite a few different names and organizations thrown at you early on, which can be a bit much to follow.
You, me, the Juggernaut Collective, we're all trying to stop them. Doesn't mean turning a blind eye to.
Then help me find them.
And the story seemed to take a while to focus itself and kick back into gear.
Yeah, I know. Just as the story was getting interesting, it's over. It's tough to say without spoiling stuff, but I wanted a better payoff for some of the things the story sets up early on. It almost felt as though there's a whole act missing from the end of the game. It's not a short game though, it's a decent 30 hours or so, but the ending just left me unsatisfied.
Deus Ex is a series that's known for having strong choice and consequence.
But if I don't go to the Prokowska district, the bomb maker dies, and we're back to square one.
Your call, man.
And there are a small handful of seemingly significant choices thrown your way, but I didn't really feel like there are any strong repercussions to any of them.
Yeah, I never felt like anything I did in the game came back to bite me in the end. There was one choice where I had to choose between saving a few important people or hundreds of innocent people. But then, in the end, I managed to do both.
Well, maybe you're just too good, Nick. I think if you can take action quick enough, certain things do change.
Yeah, but ultimately, that just takes the punch out of a big choice if nothing really matters. I did occasionally notice little bits of dialogue that acknowledged how I'd been playing, which was cool. When I played through a mission without killing anyone, for example, the guy at the end noticed that and seemed a little more responsive to talking things out with me as a result.
I want to thank you for holding yourself in check on the way in.
Another Deus Ex staple that I thought was a little bit lacking was the fact that there's only really one hub area to explore, which here is the city of Prague.
It's large and densely packed with places to explore and side missions, and it does evolve as the story progresses. Plus, the combination of Eastern European architecture with that future Blade Runner-esque aesthetic is beautiful. It actually reminded me a bit of Half-Life 2 City 17.
Yeah, it's actually a little daunting when you first start exploring. As soon as I left my apartment and I saw I could hack into my neighbors and everyone else's apartments, I was instantly distracted.
Access granted.
Ugh, snooping heaven, Nick.
You love a good snoop, don't you?
Yeah, I really love a good snoop.
In terms of core gameplay, not much has changed here since the last Deus Ex. It's still a first-person shooter sneaker hybrid, and you spend the majority of the game without even having a gun in your hand. And you can actually finish the game without killing anyone, which does appeal to my less violent side.
You didn't take that option though, did you?
No, I killed everybody all the time. But mostly you'll be simply investigating, exploring the world, and having conversations with people to find your next clue.
I found him a woman, found him a place, away from all this.
Yeah, I find people can be a little bit too chatty though, can't they?
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot of talking.
Prahadovos just got hacked.
And often I found the writing just a little exposition heavy.
I also found myself not really clicking with Jensen again. He's such a dour and humorless character.
Take a man like yourself, for example. Could have given you a sense of humor.
I'm funny enough as it is.
Well, I don't know, I like Jensen. I think he's just all business and he gets the job done. Go in guns blazing if you want, or talk your way out of situations.
There's no quick and quiet way for you to take me out. For your sake. Let's hope it doesn't come to that.
Or just try and avoid everyone and play super sneaky.
Yeah, I actually found playing this stealthily was quite fun, which is surprising given my well-documented lust for blood. It's satisfying sneaking past patrols and trying to find those hidden paths through levels.
There's always a convenient vent nearby, isn't there?
When in doubt, find a vent! And I like the improvements to the cover system, which now lets you point to a spot and quickly sprint over there. Makes stealthy play way smoother.
You've also got access to all the augments from the last game, which can improve you in pretty much every way possible. There's things like invisibility or X-ray vision, but this time out you also have a selection of even more powerful experimental augmentations, which can give you things like Titan armor and the ability to slow down time.
But the catch is, these special augmentations will overclock your system, which forces you to permanently disable one of your other augments, or else you'll experience glitches.
Cooled you right down.
And I loved this idea because it forces you to really specialize your build, but then they completely cop out of it by saying, oh, go do this side mission and you can upgrade everything as much as you want.
Yeah.
Like, way to commit!
I love having to make a tough choice like that, but give me an out and I'm gonna take it.
Giant cheater.
Still, I really love the RPG side of this. I'm not a cheater.
Yeah, someone said it on television.
I'm efficient. Getting praxis, which are your upgrade points, and deciding what to upgrade is always exciting. And all the upgrades are so tempting.
And another new thing to the game is this kind of crafting system. You find crafting parts in the world that let you quickly build various items or buff your guns.
I don't find myself using that much though. It always just seemed too expensive to justify. And so I never really bothered. There's also a sort of time trial mode called Breach, where you run through virtual reality levels trying to extract data as fast as possible.
That's it, Reaper. Now return to the exit and get out of there.
It's a surprisingly fleshed out mode with its own augmentations, upgrades, and campaign to progress through, and leaderboards to compete in.
And I was a little worried when I booted up the game and saw there are two different kinds of currency, just microtransaction alarm bells started going off everywhere. But I didn't see anywhere where you could actually pay money, so it looks like you can earn all of that by actually just playing the game. And while it's an interesting idea, I don't see too many people being hooked by this mode. Running through white rooms and clicking on black blocks isn't exactly what I came to a Deus Ex game for. I did also have some crashes to desktop though, but only a few in the space of 30 hours or so. That's not too bad. But it kind of is.
We should wrap this up though. Final thoughts?
Well, look, I know we've picked on it a fair bit, but I do think there's a solid RPG here. I just didn't like it as much as I did Human Revolution, so I'm giving it a 3.
Yeah, it definitely missed the mark in terms of story for me, but I still think the core gameplay and those RPG elements are still so smart and satisfying, so I'm giving it 3.5.
Now, a science fiction icon is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year.
Goose looks back.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise.
Ah, Star Trek. It's the show that beamed the wonders of space exploration directly into our homes 50 years ago. And since then, it's held the mantle as the granddaddy of sci-fi TV. After its inception in 1966 by Gene Roddenberry, fans have loyally followed Captain Kirk, Spock, and his coloured-shirted crew as they ventured into uncharted space to boldly go where no one has gone before. It was one of the first television shows to develop an entire subculture that would grow up around it, devouring its lore and integrating it into as many parts of their lives as possible. So when the first Star Trek game was released for PC back in 1971, it made sense that it was developed not by a studio, but by a dedicated fan, Mike Mayfield, who didn't actually have the rights to make the game, but he took a page out of Kirk's playbook and he did it anyway. Using basic text inputs to simulate controlling the bridge of the Enterprise was a perfect fit for the series, where science, numbers, and diplomacy were championed over mindless action. And just like the original series, filling in the blanks with your imagination was kinda half the fun.
Damage control, report.
All systems report normal, Captain. No ascertainable damage.
Then what is it?
But more importantly, the series had proved that it was a popular source material that could be adapted into numerous digital adventures. The early 80s Trek titles, released on systems like the Atari, Commodore, and Apple II, utilised a multi-window interface that blended instant action with some form of starship management, a layout that was originally established in the first Vector arcade release of Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulator back in '82. This move to more action-focused games was inevitable, but it was the move back to the world of text adventures that would prove popular for Trekkers and traditional gamers alike. The first of these, a variation on the famous no-win simulator won by Kirk himself, the Kobayashi Maru.
As I recall, you took the test 3 times yourself. Your final solution was, shall we say, unique.
The Kobayashi alternative was released for multiple platforms in '85 and put players to the test, evaluating a new no-win scenario simulator. Unfortunately, the game was riddled with bugs that made it, in one reviewer's words, unplayable, and no amount of sneaky reprogramming could save this doomed mission. The Promethean Prophecy, released the following year, however, proved a far more successful away team episode. Eventually, Star Trek The Rebel Universe added some much-needed visuals to the series, and continued the focus on captaining the bridge of the Enterprise, a mechanic that required minimal processing power, but could output a whole galaxy worth of gameplay variations. Then, keeping with the calculated and methodical nature of Star Trek, the point-and-click adventure seemed like the next logical direction for the series to venture into. So in '92, Interplay Productions celebrated the 25th anniversary of the franchise with an adventure that was a hit with fans and critics alike.
Take us out of here, Mr. Sulu. Warp Factor 4.
Its sequel, Star Trek Judgment Rights, was released just 1 year later, and picked up directly from the last mission of the previous game, but improved on the adventure with sharper visuals and tweaked gameplay that included adjustable difficulty.
My God.
This style of adventure proved so successful that it carried across into the next generation, with Star Trek The Next Generation a final unity.
We'll have to take that risk. Make it so.
With the show's resurging popularity in the late 90s, games began to take inspiration from all over the Star Trek timeline. And they also started experimenting with some strange and weird technology like full motion video.
Those of you who succeed in building a team will be among the elite few to take us to the stars.
Star Trek Starfleet Academy allowed you to live the life of a typical Starfleet cadet. It was seen as Star Trek's interpretation of the X-Wing and TIE Fighter games, to which they further mirrored with the sequel Star Trek Klingon Academy, where you now took control of a Klingon warship instead of a Federation vessel. It was now apparent that the deep strategy of starship combat could be just as popular, if not more so, than any away team adventure starring a disposable redshirt. And subsequently, in 2000, fans rejoiced as a whole spaceport full of Star Trek strategy games took flight. Perhaps the most popular of these being the Armada series. These real-time space strategy games allowed you to play as one of 4 factions. Traversing the entire Star Trek universe and coordinating battles proved a massive hit with hardcore fans. However, casual players were a little less enthusiastic. So attempts were made to tap into popular genres of the time, and the series set its phases to kill as it ventured into the uncharted territory of 90s shooters. Star Trek Klingon Honor Guard was released using the Unreal game engine. 2 years later, Star Trek Voyager Elite Force arrived to demonstrate that there was room in the Star Trek universe for an original, fast-paced action FPS.
Get Odell back to the ship.
Running off the residual power of that success, Star Trek Deep Space Nine: The Fallen was released the same year. With impressive visuals, an intriguing storyline, and deep gameplay, The Fallen was another hit for the Trek brand, which was now once again hitting its stride. But in 2004, the franchise took a serious hit and went into red alert, as future Star Trek games would cease to be developed due to a lawsuit between Activision and entertainment company Viacom, who owned the Star Trek brand. With only one TV series airing at the time and no feature films in the works, Activision held Viacom responsible for stagnating the franchise, and while the lawsuit was settled in 2005, the damage had already been done. But all was not lost. A plan to reroute the creative energy from a successful TV director to reverse the polarity of the show's popularity was well underway, and in 2009, J.J. Abrams released the wildly successful rebooted Star Trek film.
Either we're going down, or they are.
It was a smash hit that paved the way for new and shiny titles like Star Trek DAC, Deathmatch Assault Conquest. With a universe as vast as this, it was inevitable that Star Trek would eventually tackle the MMO genre. I'm under attack. Developed by Cryptic Studios in 2010, Star Trek Online finally laid bare the entire universe to survey and explore. With impressive visuals and an abundance of source material to draw from, it received a strong following. But however hard it tried, it never truly matched that initial wonderment inspired by the show's famous opening lines. Even worse, the next movie-related game in 2013 proved to be a catastrophic flop. And the series would hit rock bottom. Nick? Set between the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek film and its sequel Into Darkness, the game was a mess of awkward cover shooting and hilarious glitches. Abrams was personally hurt by the game's poor critical reception and even claimed the second film's success was somewhat diminished by the game's failure.
Shall we finish the game later, or do you concede defeat?
You should know me better than that by now, Spock. I never concede.
For now though, Trek fans are left to look optimistically towards the future. Kind of like Gene Roddenberry did back when he came up with the idea of an altruistic sci-fi show. And with the release of Star Trek Beyond in cinemas, and a VR Starship Bridge simulator in the works that aims to fulfill the ultimate Trekker fantasy, it looks like the relationship between video games and Star Trek will go on to live long and prosper. No, it's this. You're gonna do that. Sorry about before.
I love Star Wars.
It's Trek. Don't fall asleep.
Thanks, Goose. Well, the hype train has well and truly pulled into the station, with No Man's Sky finally released to gamers waiting with outstretched grubby hands.
And we all knew this game would be divisive, and it is. But before we get to any of that, let's just take a moment to appreciate the freedom and unchecked wonder of endless, silent, horrifying, magnificent space.
Okay, time to fix my ship.
It's time to be her, Nick. Mum was right.
Wow, this is a beautiful alien planet. Look at all the resources.
Zinc. Where's zinc? Why would a ship need zinc? Did I put it on the nose?
This is absolutely stunning.
Is that zinc? No. No, that's just a rock.
And look at all that zinc.
Is that zinc? No. No, that's just kind of the same rock.
And it's fixed.
Okay, so I need 4 Cartwright sheets. I have the resources, but I don't have enough space to make the sheet.
It's working! It's working! Ha, I'm flying! This is so cool! Oh my gosh, this thing is so cute. And look at Poop's gold!
I have been craving contact Clipper. I will name you Clipper. Come in. No. Clipper, no, what are you doing? No! Ah! Why are all these huts look the same? Who's making these huts? Is this some cheap outsourced thing?
An underground cave.
I yearn for death!
Is this some kind of jungle planet? The more of this language I learn, the more insight I gain into this race, and I realize we're all just connected. We're all one, part of the same energy.
This is incredible. It's completely different than anywhere else I've been. Oh, Mother of God, thank you. What's this? Zinc? Zinc! Well, at least you had fun.
In case you've been living under an iron deposit for the last few years, No Man's Sky is the much anticipated space exploration experience from Hello Games. It drew a lot of attention due to the fact that the game is almost infinite with a procedurally generated open universe to explore. Meaning each discovery is unique.
But it also means you only need to explore 18 quintillion planets to have finished the game, so maybe call in sick for a day or two.
Everyone begins the game in more or less the same way. You have crash landed on a planet, although the planet will be different for everyone, and must set about finding the necessary materials to repair your ship.
And there is very little in the way of a tutorial, which is great. From the moment you begin, the world feels alien and confusing. And it should, because you're dying on a strange planet.
And it all adds to that immediate sense of wonder and discovery. Wandering further and further from your ship, repairing your scanner, scanning the environment and learning about the land, wondering what else is out there. That real sense of autonomy you're given is at once empowering.
Yeah, and along the way, your scans of flora and fauna will be logged where you can rename them and earn currency for uploading your discoveries to a database. And you'll come across some interesting creatures along your travels.
Being procedurally generated, they are often odd combinations of horns and limbs and eyes. I had this weird rhino child that kept headbutting me at one point. It was super weird.
Look, I'd take Rhino Baby any day of the week over Giraffe Thing with what can only be described as a big old dick on his head. You can thank pocket producer Pierreth for that discovery.
And for my nightmares. We're actually taking renaming requests for that. I was thinking something along the lines of Unhealthy Harold.
Oh, that's not bad. Dick Raff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dickius Maximus.
That's good. Mr. Peen.
Mr. Peen, keep it simple.
Mr. Peen
I like
works.
that. And while there are ways to uncover marked points of interest with scanning, activating beacons, many of the discoveries you make will be purely by accident.
They all just blend into one, though. You found one structure with an alien looking at an iPad. You found them all, because they're pretty much the same on every single planet. Sure, they have new gear for you, but it's nothing ever exciting. It's just stronger mining laser. Yay! It flickers with mild disappointment. You're an alien with a TV for a head. Tell me how you eat!
Oh man, I lived for those moments when you feel so freaking alone just traveling from planet to planet, all of which are just so vast and undeveloped that any hint of contact from another life form was just so exciting. And there's mystery as well, since you can only ever catch snatches of the language from the few words you've learned of their tongue. Learning the language is something you can also do by visiting monoliths, which are alien structures filled with knowledge stones. These landmarks were my favourite. It's where the real mystery came in for me. I always sought them out first because learning the language made me feel like a real traveller.
Yeah, I guess the alien backstory is pretty good. There's some interesting stories in there, but it's all lore. I never felt like a participant, just an observer. An observer of aliens who just like to sit. Or occasionally shoot me out of the sky.
Yeah, and combat is pretty minimal and usually just to be avoided where possible. There are these drones on all the planets called Sentinels. They seem to be a galactic police force of some kind, and they'll attack you if you do something that they don't like, such as blasting open those sealed doors. They can be taken out with your mining laser or a weapon if you equip one to your multi-tool though. But if you die, you lose your inventory, which you should go and collect when you respawn because a big part of this game is inventory management. But I'd say that's what makes this game so dangerously addictive. You know, once I have this, then I can get that, and then so on.
True, but that's also the entire gameplay loop. Mine for the thing, to make the thing, to upgrade the thing, to mine more things. Which stays interesting for about as long as it took me to say that sentence. But while the ultimate goal of No Man's Sky, if you need one, is to get to the center of the universe or to perhaps uncover the mysteries of Atlas, the real game here is finding and discovering all these new planets. But despite these huge claims of each one of these planets being unique, they actually all just start to feel totally samey to me.
I agree. I mean, it can't help but become formulaic. You get to a planet, you activate a beacon, you talk to the alien, buy, trade, sell, upgrade, mine, move on. That sense of wonder dulls after a while, and all you see is work for a seemingly endless amount of time.
And who knows what could be uncovered countless hours into the game. I will never know, because I will never grind my way through enough to get there. Let's take a look at our disappointment. Oh, good, good. And a perfect ending. I want to believe there is something truly unique out there, but I just don't think there is. Every single planet I landed on was just a reskin of the one I was on before, and you're on it for 5 minutes and you've seen everything that planet has to offer. It's time to move on. But I do still get a bit of a swell of excitement when I launch myself back into space. That moment still hasn't worn off for me.
Yeah, there are certainly some lovely moments. Most animal encounters usually result in the animal either trying to run away or kill you. But I did get close enough to a creature for long enough to feed it, and then like a little puppy it started running around and digging up minerals for me. And I was so excited by that. I thought, this is so cool. But then I was like, is it? Or am I just so starved for some sort of interaction that I'm making this a bigger deal than it really is?
I mean, that's the thing, right? The universe is so vast and expansive that any moment of discovery or interaction actually just feels really big because you're so alone for so much of the time. Those tiny moments become so much more meaningful. A new world. A black hole. A penis giraffe. And that's nice, but for me, it's not nearly enough.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many ways you can look at this experience. For example, here are some words you could use to describe No Man's Sky. Hypnotic, therapeutic, calming.
Monotonous, frustrating, predictable.
Yeah, and which of those objectives apply to your personal experience will not only depend on how you play, but who you are as a player and what you determine to be important to your personal journey throughout your time with it.
Maybe it's a little from column A and a little from column B, but I do think because so much of this game is randomly generated, then your experience can come down to just the luck of the dice.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's some people that have experienced these lush kind of jungle planets with trees and stuff, and
who are these people?
Other people, like in 14 hours, have just seen rocks and dirt and more rocks.
I can pretty much guarantee that if we turn around right now, there are rocks on the screen. Okay, like it's after that, yeah, like I bet when they're not in a menu, it's rocks. And I do think that part of that was that we see these amazing trailers at E3 and Sony was talking about the game so much that people's expectations were just being raised to a point where there's no way the game can deliver on it and it just sort of comes crashing down around you.
It's really tough, isn't it? Because I have really thought about what our opinion of this game would be if it was some small kind of sleeper hit release.
Like, or even like if it was in early access.
Yeah, like some kind of like Minecraft $20 thing where we're all like, this is really, really cool. But once Sony gets behind it and jumped on the marketing train and everyone was so excited, you know, everyone's expectations are high and, you know, we can't help that.
And there's also the problem that I feel like that the game they have put out now in retail for sale just does not live up to the expectations we have for how much content should be in a video game. And they've said that in future patches, they're bringing in things like crafting and building. But at that point, it's kind of too little too late. I will have spent 20, 30 hours with a game that I'm not interested in going back now that you've actually put quote unquote the game in it.
It's so true. And just because the game, like the universe is big, and sure, there is a lot for you to do, but is the stuff that you do in this giant world, you know, fulfilling?
No, the answer is no, because nothing can mean anything if everything is random. And that's a poetic look at how our life is, but we actually need to live this. That going to one ecosystem, like on one planet, and you find these species of plants and animals and you go, this is so amazing, but then as soon as you leave there, none of that continues on other worlds. It's not like the next world is an evolution of that one. It's like that was a hub and now you're in another hub and there are just infinite hubs. So why do you care about any of them? Because nothing is permanent, we're all gonna die.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of these games, they're like, well, it's about creating your own story and making your own fun, but I don't walk away from that experience feeling like I've been enriched in any way. And
at least try and put a little bit of fun in there.
What's your own story? It's not a story, it's a to-do list.
Yeah, no bueno.
In the end, this is one of those games that's so difficult to score because underneath it all, it's still a technical marvel.
Yeah, have we ever seen anything like this before? No. And I don't want to take that away from Hello Games. The way they incorporate loading like it's part of the traveling and the algorithms they use to generate everything. It's a huge feat of engineering.
Absolutely, but that said, in spite of it feeling so addictive, the urge to keep going, to keep upgrading, to see what might be around the next corner in the next star system, after each long session of playing this, I kind of just felt like I'd wasted a huge chunk of my life.
But that makes sense because the game is at its best when you feel like you can discover absolutely anything. But at the end of the day, you realize you probably won't. You're just gonna discover a slightly different rock. So I'm gonna give it a 2.
Yeah, I mean, it is an incredible feat of game design, and I know that many people will be utterly spellbound by this, but for me, it just wasn't enough. I'm giving it 2.5.
We're sorry, Sean. So, did you name the game for this week? They're in the walls, man. It was Geometry Wars Galaxies on the Wii from 2007. This sequel to the frantic, top-down shooter Geometry Wars Retro Evolved introduced more varied single-player levels and a very handy helper drone power-up. And it was outnamed the game because the technical director on Galaxies was none other than Sean Murray, the lead designer on No Man's Sky.
Next week on the show, we dance our way through the dreamlike platformer Bound.
Did you dance?
Did I?
Do you?
I mean, I do a bit of this, if you call that dancing.
I don't. Plus, Good Game meets some of the best Magic the Gathering players in the entire world.
Hey! Well, thanks for being my co-pilot tonight, NichBoy.
My pleasure, Hex, and I will be back next week, but I will also return tomorrow on everyone's screens for an episode of Good Game Pocket, which you can find every day of the working week on iView or YouTube. Listen to this. It's in from Steve Ironhide. Did Barjo Pants stick more pictures of his face around the office? You know, Mr. Ironhide, I believe the saying is a picture speaks 1,000 words. So here's 4,000 words about Barjo leaving.
Well, until next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
NichBoy out. No, really, I think they're in the room now.
All right, time to go sort out the xenomorphs again.
She'll be fine. Well, that was quick.
Yeah, done a few times.
Now, look, are people still sending in the cards for the 10th anniversary episode?
Yes, that's right. We have a competition running where you can be in our live studio audience for the Good Game 10th anniversary special.
And I heard you have to attach glitter.
Well, apparently it's in the official terms and conditions that all entries including glitter will be disqualified. But I say do it anyway. Roll the dice.
I think if you say it on TV, it has to be true.
That's what I think.
I think the winner is the person who can attach the most glitter.